There was a certain kind of magic that bloomed every evening beneath the ancient banyan tree in the village of Noorabad, with roots that curled like the fingers of time and leaves that rustled like whispers of the past. This tree had stood for generations, watching over the children, the seasons, and the stories of the land. Under its wide, sheltering arms, just as the golden sun dipped behind the hills and painted the sky in hues of fire and amber, an old man named Grandfather Rehman would settle into his favorite wooden chair. His beard was silver, his eyes deep as wells of memory, and his smile always gentle, always knowing. Alongside him, two eager boys would flop onto a threadbare rug spread over the earth, ever curious and thoughtful, and Faris, the playful skeptic, with a quick wit and louder laughter. Every evening, like clockwork, the trio gathered. The crickets began their nightly song. Fireflies blinked like tiny lanterns, and Grandfather Rehman would clear his throat, a familiar signal that a new tale was about to begin. And oh, the stories he told! He spun worlds with his words, of rivers that hummed lullabies, of trees that walked in moonlight, and of kings who could speak to stars. Hamza always listened with wide eyes, drinking in every detail. Faris, on the other hand, listened to, but not without a chuckle or a comment. "Another one of your grandpa tales," he'd say, waving a dismissive hand, though he never missed a single story. But then came that particular evening. The dusk was cooler than usual. A hush had settled more deeply over the village, and the old banyan seemed to sway as if in anticipation. The lantern hanging from one of its branches flickered to life, casting a soft circle of golden light. That night, Grandfather Rehman leaned forward, his voice lower than usual, almost conspiratorial. "I haven't told you this one before," he said, eyes twinkling like starlight caught in the branches. "It happened many, many years ago, when I was just a boy, not much older than the two of you."
Faris raised an eyebrow.
"Is this the one where you rode a flying camel?" Rehman chuckled, shaking his head. "No. No, this is the story of a talking sparrow who once saved my life." Hamza leaned in, intrigued. Faris burst out laughing. "A talking sparrow, really? Nana, that's a new one even for you?" Unbothered, Rehman simply smiled. "Yes, a talking sparrow? And if you just hush and listen, you might learn something you won't find in any school book." And so the story began. A voice in the wind. Rehman painted a vivid picture of his youth. He described a time when Noorabad was even quieter, when radios were rare and bicycles were considered treasures. He was a shy boy then, drawn to nature. He would spend hours exploring the woods that hugged the edges of the village. Dense forests where shafts of sunlight pierced the canopy, where the air was filled with the scents of wild jasmine and earth. One afternoon, he recalled, I wandered deeper than I ever had before. I was chasing the echo of a bird song, a melody, unlike anything I'd heard. It was sharp, but sweet, like the wind humming a sea. As dusk crept in, young Rehman found himself surrounded by thick trees and shadowed silence. Then, out of nowhere, he stumbled and slipped into a ditch, spraining his ankle. I cried out, he said softly, but no one was around. The woods swallowed my voice. Then, in that eerie silence, came a flutter, soft, rapid, like the heartbeat of the forest. A tiny brown sparrow landed near him, eyes alert, head tilted curiously. He didn't expect much. After all, sparrows were common in New. But then it spoke, Grandfather Rehman said, almost in a whisper. Its voice was raspy, like dried leaves brushing together, but clear. The boys gasped. What did it say? Hamza asked breathlessly. It said, don't be afraid, child. I will help you. But Rehman only smiled knowingly. Believe what you will. But that tiny creature guided me back, hopping ahead, chirping directions. I limped, I followed, and I made it out. That bird saved me. He looked up at the leaves above them. I've never forgotten that day. Laughter, doubt, and a discovery. Faris scoffed once more. So you expect us to believe a bird talked, guided you out of a forest, and vanished into thin air? Come on! Hamza stayed quiet, eyes dreamy. The evening ended with a good-natured laugh and yawns. The boys helped Grandfather Rehman back to the house, and soon the night swallowed their voices, leaving the banyan tree to dream its old, leafy dreams. But the story, it seemed, had taken root in the very next afternoon, when the sun was hot and school was done. Hamza and Faris, led more by curiosity than belief, decided to explore the woods just for fun. Faris insisted, to see if any birds want to chat, or maybe to find something Grandpa left behind. Hamza added, clutching a small canteen and their grandfather's old compass, they ventured in deeper and deeper, their path marked by rustling leaves and chirping birds. But as they moved further from the village, the sounds grew softer, stranger. The trees grew thicker, the light dimmed. Then suddenly, a sharp cry, a fluttering panic of wings, a thud and silence. It's hurt, Hamza whispered. Faris crouched. Poor thing! And then it happened. The bird, weak and trembling, looked at them and spoke. Please, help me! Both boys froze. Faris blinked, certain he had imagined it. Did you? Hamza nodded slowly. It talked, the sparrow groaned. I don't have much time. They're waiting. Who's waiting? Hamza asked. The others, in the hidden valley, the bird replied, voice thinner now. They need me. The journey home shocked but moved. The boys remembered Grandfather Rehman's story. Without another word, they carefully lifted the sparrow, wrapped it in Hamza's handkerchief, and began their trek back. Grandfather Rehman was waiting outside the house when they returned, sipping tea under the same banyan tree. When he saw the boys' pale faces and the bundle in Hamza's hands, he stood up quickly. You found it, he whispered. So? It has begun again. You knew? Faris asked, still stunned. Grandfather nodded slowly. The Valley of Wings reveals itself only when it chooses to. It let me in once. And now, it's chosen you into the hidden valley. With Rehman's directions, spoken in hushed tones and filled with old names and natural signs, the boys set off again the next morning. This time, with purpose. They followed the compass to a stone with a carved feather. From there, they followed the song of a distant flute. And just when they thought they had lost their way, the trees parted, revealing a valley unlike any place they had known. The air shimmered. Birds of all shapes and sizes soared above, each with feathers and hues no painter could imagine. Some sang lullabies, some recited verses, some merely watched with wise eyes. It was a sanctuary, a world untouched by greed or noise. They placed a sparrow, now glowing faintly, onto a pedestal of smooth stone. A larger bird, regal and majestic, approached and bowed. You have returned one of our own, she said. For this, we are grateful. The boys spent the rest of the day among the magical birds. They listened to tales and birdsong, learned the importance of balance in nature, and saw visions of the world. If humanity continued to forget its roots, by dusk, the sparrow, now healed, fluttered onto Faris's shoulder. Thank you, it said. Not just for helping me, but for believing. Lessons that stay when the boys return to the banyan tree. Grandfather Rehman was already waiting. He didn't ask what they saw. He already knew. Faris didn't laugh this time. He sat quietly beside Rehman, looking up at the branches. You were telling the truth all along, he said softly. Rehman smiled. Some truths need to be lived to be believed. Hamza looked around at the evening sky, now dotted with birds flying home. We'll remember, he said. We'll keep the story alive. Rehman's eyes sparkled. Good. That's all a story asks for. To be remembered. Epilogue beneath the banyan. And so, every evening after that, Hamza and Faris returned to the banyan tree, not just as listeners, but as storytellers. Sometimes they spoke of sometimes they spoke of enchanted valleys and birds that spoke in dreams. And the younger children who came to listen would giggle, marvel, and ask, Is it real? To which Faris would smile, eyes glinting like his grandfather's once did, and reply, some stories may sound like fairy tales, but believe me, not all tales are fiction. And the banyan tree, its roots deeper and its leaves wiser than ever, would rustle in agreement, as if it too remembered the day when two boys helped a sparrow find its way home.